2022 at 7:03 to order. Join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Sharon, I'll let you lead us.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, reviewing the housekeeping items as we do each meeting. Board, when speaking, please move close to your microphone to ensure you're clearly for the YouTube streaming. And I request that citizens who speak to adjust the height and stand close to the microphone in front of us. There will be 2 opportunities for citizen comments. I will be requesting an individual stay within the 4 minutes in both citizen comment sections. Would appreciate everyone keeping their points concise. I would request that comments are made respectfully to the board. We are here to discuss the township's business. Citizen comments should pertain to specific issues, concerns, or policies they would like to bring to the board's attention. The documents on the website are aligned to the items on the agenda. These are draft documents to provide background information only. Just to be clear, motions were drafted to help the board more quickly get to the final wording and vote on the respective motions. The final motion may look different to reflect the actual action taken by the board. Board, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve tonight. We have the first set, which is our regular board meeting minutes of June 21st, 2022. Are there any changes or comments? All right, hearing none, I will make the motion to approve the June 21st, 2022 regular board meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 21st, 2022. Any further discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Are there any changes to the minutes to the special board meeting of June 30th, 2022? That is where we reviewed personnel additions that came to the board's attention after the regular meeting.
I have one.
All right.
I wasn't at the former one, so I couldn't really comment much on that one, but this one I can. Number 5, EMS, it's not paramedic. It's EMS B basic, EMS or EMT-B.
All right.
And then it goes on to say hire Matthew. It says paramedic. It should be EMT-B. He's an EMT, not a paramedic.
My mistake.
And that was on our agenda the same way, original agenda.
It was on as paramedic?
No, it was as an EMT.
It
on our-
was correct then.
All right. Any other comments or changes? All right. Hearing none, I will make the motion to approve the minutes of June 30th, 2022 with changes. Is there a second?
I'll second that with change.
It is moved and seconded to approve the special board meeting of June 30th, 2022. Any further discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Kathy, any correspondence or announcements?
Yes, sir. Board, I put on your tabletop
Microphone.
just now. We received, let's see, this was sent to Mr. Cook and forwarded on to me. And it was received from Biking Trail. Dear Torch Lake Township Board, I'm writing to encourage you to do all you can to bring the Nakwima, is that close? Walking bike trail to the Eastport area. At 70 years old, I need the gentle exercise of biking, walking, and kayaking, but there have been many times that I've been afraid to cross Highway 31 or ride along 88 or down the various lanes for fear of being hit by a vehicle. Please include an under or overpass or a light that can be activated at the intersection, so we pedestrians, bikers, and elders in electric chairs can access not only the trail, but the bay, Barnes Park, and the grocery store as well. I know when my aunts and mother were no longer able to drive, they longed for a safe way to get around. They wanted to visit friends, pick up the mail, go to the grocery, and enjoy nature, and they wished for the continued freedom to be unconfined to their homes without constant assistance. The trail and a way across the highway would really help. Maybe you'll even have more locals drop into the township hall by walking or biking there as it was in the old days. Please feel free to read or print and post my email for the upcoming meeting, which I am unable to attend. Thank you for your time, efforts, and consideration helping us have a trail, and for your continued service to the community. And that was signed by Leslie Lee, 12019 Pearl Lane, Eastport, Michigan. Then also, I've had a couple comments to the board. One about the trails at the nature preserve. And quite honestly, I've lost track of our committee and where we are with the nature preserve, but the comment was that the trails need to be cleared. And I know we talked about that a long time ago. So that was one comment that I got from a citizen. This is an oldie but goodie. When the Central Lake community was doing their curbside trash pickup where you could get rid of everything and anything, they're asking why Torch Lake Township doesn't have a similar trash pickup day. And I know we've talked about that. It's very expensive. And then the last thing I'll bring up again is the Lakeview Cemetery, which we have on our agenda later, and why or why not having mausoleums at our cemetery. We have one that's snuck in there. And so now the question is, can we have more? So I know we're going to discuss that later. So as far as comments, I believe that's everything that I've received.
All right. Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No.
Hearing none, I have one. Alan Martell is not here this evening. He was unable to make it. So I would like to remove item number 1 in the board discussion. That is the item related to the cemetery. I know that people wanted to talk about that tonight. However, Alan's the one that had put together that email to me with all the items to it. And I think he ought to be here when we get into that discussion. So we will put that on our agenda for next month. If there's no other changes, I will make the motion that the agenda be accepted as presented with changes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded that the agenda is accepted as presented with changes. Any further discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, board. We next move to citizen comments. I know we don't have our cards, so if you would like to speak, please introduce yourselves and tell us your address so that we can write down the relevant information. Yes, ma'am, we'll start with you.
Elizabeth Evans.
Come on up to the mic. Let's make sure it's on.
Hello.
Move it up and down or however you need to have it for yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you need to stand close to it, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to read.
Okay.
Liz Lee Evans, 11941 Pearl Harbor, Eastport, Michigan. I've lived in Eastport part-time or full-time every year of my life. As I grow older here, the acceptance and completion of the Nokwema Trail takes on greater importance for several reasons. First, not too long ago, when my mother, Jane Pearl, was wheelchair-bound and living in Eastport, it would have been a joy and her desire to take an extended nature walk on a solid trail through the woods and up to the flat road where she had played as a child. And as I think ahead to my 90s, I hope there will be a lengthy, safe path for old folks to stroll along. While we presently have wonderful walking trails in Barnes Park for most ages to use, as we grow older, the routes, turns, and hills make it tricky to navigate. Also, for parents with children in tow, a long-distance asphalt path would facilitate their ability to encourage their children to walk and ride out of doors and out of harm's way, to appreciate nature and protect it. The second wish would be to connect the Nakwima Trail from US 31 along M88 to the Torch Lake Public Landing to allow walkers to know the rich but rural mini character of our hamlet and allow it to show and shine. Food and drink at the Corner Cafe, art in the Betty Beebe House, early history in the Wilkinson House. No doubt, too, that the increased foot traffic would be a delight of the folks in the Eastport Assisted Living Home as they sit on their benches and watch the walkers make their way to Torch Lake. Finally, Eastport was and is the home and sacred land, anciently and now, of the original people of Michigan, the Anishinaabe. In the early 1800s, this Eastport area was the seat of a principal Ojibwe chief whose name, Aishkwaganabe, means feather of honor. Let us honor the original people of our area with posted important historical and cultural information along the Nakwima Trail. I'd like to thank you all for your work, and I want to thank you. I'd forgotten that you have my map up on the wall in the hall, so thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
If you haven't looked at her map, it's totally, how do I want to say it, signed in Native American words, and she put a lot of time and effort into creating that map. It's beautiful.
All right,
Betty's mural's still up there too.
Yeah.
all right, Denise. Ladies first.
Denise.
My name is Denise Walker. I live at 5951 M88, Central Lake, Michigan. I, along with Jenny Aber, have started leading, I guess you could say, in an informal way, work towards a section of the Nakwima Trail that would hopefully go through our township here. I received several letters by people who could not be here. I don't know what's your position on me reading them, but they all have really compelling reasons why they support this. So is it, what do you want?
Do you have a lot? I mean,
Well, I have two, and then I have a short statement of my own.
all right. What do you think, board? Do you want to go
I
through
think that's
those?
fine.
All right.
Okay, this one is from Thomas Richards, and he is the retired Harbor Springs city manager. It says, "Dear board members, I appreciate the opportunity to share my personal experience when non-motorized trails were considered. In my career of public service, I've been fortunate enough to live in two beautiful communities like yours when we were in your position. Both communities looked carefully at the pros and cons of creating a new trail and how to minimize the impacts and maximize the benefits of a trail was in there for their future. I saw both communities get bogged down in discussions and speculations about those people who would use the trail and how the trail was likely to change their property, their view, and their status quo. In both cases, these municipalities worked carefully and constructively, and ultimately they created wonderful trails that enhanced their communities in ways that would be looked upon as a positive change long into the future. What we found in both cases is that the people who most benefited from the trail was us. Those of us who live nearby now had an amazing new opportunity to appreciate our community even more by walking or riding on beautiful new trails, which were conveniently in our own backyards. When we used our trails, we also had the benefit of being connected so that those pleasant walks or rides were a little longer. We could also safely connect with and appreciate the beauty of our neighboring communities on their portion of a connected trail, all because their residents shared similar goals. I encourage you to look at this trail opportunity from the perspective of what it will provide you and your neighbors. I've learned firsthand that it won't be those people enjoying this trail as much as it will be us. I look forward to the opportunity to work with you and help you in any way I can to bring this same benefit to the Torch Lake Eastport community. The other letter was from, let's see here, a family that has, like the previous speaker, a rich history. Yeah, I think I have it here, in this neighborhood. And it says, on behalf of the Wilson Moore family residing at 5984 M88, we would like to express our overwhelming support for a walking bike path in the Torch Lake Eastport area. As both residents and frequent family visitors, we come here in hopes of opportunities to get outside and experience all the natural beauty that Eastport has to offer. The community is wonderfully connected, and we frequently walk between the boat launch, post office, TLC, Eastport Market, and our beloved Barnes Park to look for Petoskey stones and watch stellar sunsets. Since coming to the area years ago, we have experienced firsthand the sense of community and warmth from the multitude of bike riders and walkers who frequently pass our home. We encourage the board to please consider moving forward with this community building endeavor. And my personal comment, I'm a relatively new member of the Planning Commission, and I've become very, maybe a zealot in supporting our master plan. And in the transportation section, D9, or it's 10, number 10D, it says that we shall work with the Michigan Department of Transportation to explore methods and resources for traffic calming in higher density sections of the highway and improve pedestrian and bicycle safety along US 31 and M88 highway corridors through the incorporated hamlets of Torch Lake and Eastport. So we have a current master plan that really propels us to have evidence that we are working towards this. And so I feel personally responsible to, as a commissioner, to make us aware that we should be attending to this, not as we move into our next, when we're reviewing the master plan. We have it in place now that we should be working and providing evidence that we are. So I strongly support this effort.
Thank you, Denise.
Can we have those for our records, Denise?
Can you give them
Yes, ma'am.
to Jackie, please, or Veronica, please?
Hello, I'm Jenny A. Bear from 5917 M88.
Wait, a minute. She's not quite ready to type all that in. Jenny, sorry.
Should I start again? Should I re-say my name? Jenny A. Bear from 5917 M88 Highway in Eastport. Our families have been here since the 1870s, and I would like to share just a few comments of my own. I've been working with Denise and the Top of Michigan and the Tart Trails people, and Jim, who shares his cafe with us for our meetings for the Torch to Bay Team Trail. Did I get that right, Denise? Did I say that right? We're naming ourselves the Torch to Bay Team Trail.
What are you calling yourself?
Torch
to Bay.
Trail Team, Torch to Bay Trail Team. And so my comments are that I love to immerse myself in nature. Probably for the last 30 years, I try to ride a bike almost every day. And, having a non-motorized pathway is really one of the only continuous ways that residents and visitors can enjoy nature. I mean, we can go down to the bay and walk, but it's kind of hard sometimes to walk a mile or two, or 15 miles would probably be impossible. So a non-motorized pathway is one of the best ways to share nature in our area with others. I also think that having a bikeway and pathway would provide equity to low-income residents who might be without transportation. I love it when I see people at the Eastport Landing that I know are local residents, can't afford a piece of property of their own, but they're there enjoying the beach. And I think that's really important for us as citizens to equalize things so that others can enjoy our area too. Also, developing a pathway would allow all ages and abilities to participate. And so I support today's resolution and adoption of the Nakwema Trail into our master plan or transportation section or whatever it's called. And then I just have a short one to read from Judy Johnson, who lives in Eastport as well. She gave her addresses, 5950 North M88 Highway. Judy Johnson. Dear Board of Directors, driving to Traverse City or Petoskey to visit family or friends, I have had much concern for the bikers and walkers along the highway. I have always wished our area could have a paved area or at least a distinctly safe way for them to travel. I support the idea that we should plan and develop a walking and bike path for all our area. Safety is the biggest reason to have a path, and who knows, with a safe passage, I might even start to ride and walk, especially to the post office and grocery store and to the lakeside. I often think I should walk, but I know how heavy traffic gets. I would like to be the kind of person that works to diminish my gas use and believe a walking, biking pathway might motivate me to do just that. Please consider a path for all who are already biking and walking, and for all who may start to improve their personal quality of life with this improvement. Sincerely, Judy Johnson.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, other comments? There you are, you're next.
My name is Norton Bretz. I live at 11907 Pearl Harbor. You've already heard from two of my cousins. Our family has been here for a long time. My great-grandfather came here in 1876 to open a general store in Eastport on the corner of Pearl Road and M88. And he was a member of the U.S. Wheelmen. He was a bicyclist even back then. It was when the safety bike, the first bikes with pneumatic tires, became available, and people started riding bicycles, even women, if you can imagine that. They were all interested in pumping up Eastport as a center of the area. And you may not be aware, but there were a lot of attempts to get the railroad to come up here in the 1800s. And secondly, to build a canal to the bay, to be like Elk Rapids and Charlevoix, and therefore have a lot of business. That never happened, of course, and now Eastport is the sleepy little town that we're used to, and I think I like it that way. I'm glad they failed personally. But when it comes to bicycles, I have a different attitude. Apparently it's genetic because my grandfather and my great-grandfather were both bicycle riders, and my car in the parking lot is the only one with a bicycle on the back. You may have been aware that there were a whole bunch of bicyclists that came through here on Sunday. Over 500 came through, and not very many of them stopped. But it's called the Ride Around Torch, the RAT, that is sponsored by the Traverse City Bicycle Club, the Cherry Capital Cycle Club. And it will have more than 1,000 before too long. And they do it every year between sometime in July, third Sunday in July, I believe. I was in it this year and I did the 63-mile version, and I'm getting older and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to do that every year. I turn 80 in about a year, and I can still do it, but I'm not sure that that's going to last very long. So I'm interested in small trails, the ones that are proposed for this area in particular. Many of the communities in our area are putting these in. Traverse City is probably the biggest one that has the most trails, the TART trails. And when I want to ride on a protected trail, that is one without cars on it, I usually go to Traverse City, where there's a ride that goes out to Sutton's Bay and comes back. And there's now a trail around, what's the name of the lake? Boardman Lake, yes, all the way around, that basically cuts off the really lousy part up near South Airport Road. Wonderful set of bridges that allows you to go completely around the lake without stopping. Starts from behind the library and you can go right all the way around. It's about 6 miles, I think. And when I was on it this last weekend, there were lots and lots of people using it. There are more and more people using these trails than ever before. And there are a lot of communities around here who are putting them in. Charlevoix, for example, has a trail that goes from Charlevoix, well, basically the airport, all the way up to Bay Harbor Club. And it would go further, except for the fact they had a landslide when the water was high in the bay and lost a whole section of their trail. But it goes up to both Harbor Springs, and it goes up to up 31, where it becomes a gravel trail at one point and goes all the way to Mackinac City. Otherwise, there's a trail that's going from Charlevoix to Boyne City that's always in obras and in construction of some kind. And it goes about 5 miles from Boyne City, and it's excavated, I think, all the way to 31, but hasn't been completed yet. And people are talking about putting a bikeway in between Belair and Central Lake, which I think would be a good idea along the old train roadway. As the other trail that's protected around here, the other nearest one to me is the trail that goes to Sutton's Bay on the other side of the bay. It's a very popular one. It's got several regular rides that go on it that I take advantage of every year, or every day. But it's a long ways away. It's probably 35 miles or 40 miles just to get there. And then the other one is the mountain bike trails in Belair called Glacial Hills, which are wonderful, except my 10-year-old granddaughter can beat me going up the hills these days. So I haven't been riding it as much. And it's also pretty remote. If you get out there far enough, you're in the middle of nowhere, and there's no commercial stuff along the trail at all. That's not true for this area. And I think a trail that goes between Barnes Park, which already has a population of people who would use it, and the day park here in Torch Lake Village would be a real asset to the community.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Come on up, huh? Yeah.
Anyway, Jim Hettinger, 12582 Kessler. I'm not as prepared as everyone else here, but basically what I would say is I would love to be able to come out of my house and just jump on a bike and bike down to Barnes Park or Eastport Market or down here to the day park. I find now, like Morgan was saying, if I want to go on a bike ride, I have to go all the way to Traverse City. I got to drive 45 minutes and get off and get on a bike. And what I would also say is, if you've ever done the ride up to Sutton's Bay, it's just beautiful. It's bucolic, and it's a wonderful experience. And you see families with kids, baby carriages, walking, bicyclists. It's really a great experience. And, when I had young child and friends, I would love to have been able to say to them, go take a bike ride to Eastport Market. No, it wasn't. I would never have them go on the road as it is right now. It's not safe. So you'd always have to drive in there. And that's part of being a kid, is hopping on a bike and going and enjoying things. And we live in a rural area. Bicycles are part of a rural area, and I think it'd be a wonderful thing. So
Great, thank you.
Jairus Rubin, County Commissioner, Ellsworth, Michigan. Just want to give you a little update on the hydrology study. The hydrology study resulted in 2 documents: the hydraulic model that Antrim County participated in with the Army Corps of Engineers. The hydraulic model study is 87 pages long, and the floodplain management study is 122 pages long. So I've been working my way through them. Section 5, alternatives in the hydraulic model, talk about replacing the Bridge Street culvert in Ellsworth. And their best guess, they have right now, the culvert there is 13 feet, and they propose replacing it with a 24-foot box culvert. So it's not quite double, but it's close. And they project that that could lower 6 Mile Lake by about 10 inches and St. Clair Lake by about 12 inches. And then they did projections on what happens to the lakes further down the chain. And except in a flood condition, it would result in about 1 inch higher further down the chain. So they have projections that show a 100-year storm event. We obviously don't want those, but the 100-year storm event, basically everything is flooding. 100-year storm event is over 5 inches of rain within 24 hours. The other thing I would mention is that at the Central Lake Village Council, their last meeting, they gave preliminary approval to Mortensen Funeral Homes to start constructing a cremation facility. Their plan is to take down the house behind the funeral home and to build a state-of-the-art cremation facility. There's a few residents that are concerned about the odor, but they have hired someone who is an expert in this, and he says that if they get the temperature right, you're not going to smell it. And they have to create a report for each one that they do with the state of Michigan that shows the temperature and that they're doing it correctly. The Antrim County Road Commission had their meeting this week, and I guess probably the highlight was the Shanty Creek Corridor project. They had a ribbon cutting today. There's a bunch of us out there. It's a $2 million project to redo that road, and it's going to be really nice when they're done. They recently hired Jessica Harp from Mansalona to be their accounting manager. She comes from Grand Traverse County. She has a degree in accounting from Ferris State University. And the Road Commission is submitting bids to put in generators for their Mansalona facility, so that in the case of a power outage, they could still work on their Road Commission trucks. Just in case one of them would break down, we had a recent event where we were out of power for a couple days, and if it's in the wintertime with a heavy snow, we still want the trucks on the road cleaning the roads. I think that's, the Atwood Road project is complete, and they're just, the paving and the gravel is done. They're just going to be installing guardrail yet. $100,000 for guardrail along Atwood Road.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thanks, Jared.
Sheriff?
Al's not here, so we'll talk about here today,
Yeah. No eating and cooking
nothing.
tips?
Nothing at all tonight for
All
it.
right.
Real quick, we'll run through the numbers. June of 2022 compared to June of 2021. Your 911 checks were significantly down. You had 14 in June of 2022. You had 43 last year. Animal control complaints were the same. They were 1 and 1. Your car deers were 2 and 2. Nothing changed here. Fireworks, there was 1 extra one this year. There was 2. There was 1 last year in June. Marine stops were down. You had 1. You had 6 in June of 2022. Medical calls were down by 1. You had 10. You had 11. Traffic stops, you had 9, and you didn't have any last June. So you had 82 calls of service for June of 2022. June of 2021, you had 107. So you're down a little bit this year compared to last. Real quick, personnel-wise, Todd Rowling, 31 years with the department, been my jail administrator for probably half of that, maybe not quite, almost half of it. Just retired about 4 weeks ago. We've named Sherry Knight, which Sharon would know. Sherry has been with us for about 17, 18 years. She's been a corporal for quite a few years also. She's moved into the sergeant slot and taking care of the jail. Last week was the last week under Sheriff Dean Pratt, who's been employed with us for almost 32 years also. He just retired effective last Friday. And Kevin Hoke, who's been a sergeant with us, and he got 27 years experience, is now my undersheriff. So we've had some significant changes within the office, especially with seniority and a lot of knowledge that's going out the door on me. So we have 4 new sergeants. They're 3 years and less. I've got 2 people that have 1 year in. I'll have 5 people in seniority behind them by the time I get through this year. So we're really got a young department. A lot of good growth coming, but it's going to be a big change for us. A big change for this dinosaur here, especially because I've been used to having people that really understand. Right in the middle of doing budgets and some other things that are going on, so everybody's on a fast pace to get that understood. So, but it's been going well. And I'm down 3 in the jail right now through retirement, so we're trying to get people hired. Torch Fest went very well this year. We had a very quiet year. I was talking earlier with someone, and we contribute part of that probably to the gas. But I also believe that Cherry Festival had a lot to do with it. They had the Blue Angels in there for 2 days straight. A lot of times they only do 1 day, and we pick up the other ones. We haven't had a lot of fireworks sanctioned. The only one was down there on that end. Central Lake didn't have theirs this year due to getting the fireworks. The only one was really Ellsworth and Shaney Creek, so it kept things to a dull roar for us. So we had a pretty good year. We kept the same service with what we've done down there. There's 5 different entities for those in the audience. There's 5 different entities that are involved. It's Kalkaska, Antrim, State Police, the Park Service had gotten involved about 4 years ago, and then the DNR. So we've kept that pressure on down there, and I think we've done a decent job of doing that. So there's a 911 renewal at $500,000. It's a renewal, nothing more, nothing less. So it's the same it's been for the last 2 or 3 cycles. I just want to bring that to your attention. And then the other thing is 911 board is looking at tower, just so you're aware of it, which will help part of this. As you know, we've had a lot of voice quality problems within the county. We are looking at putting a new tower in over on Orchard Hill. That tower's been there for almost 50 years, if not more, from what we can figure out. And it's time for a change. There's an RFP, a request for proposal going out. And as soon as we get that back in, then we'll move forward. We've been working with Forest Home Township pretty steady, but we have no portable communication in downtown Central Lake at all. It's just terrible. Central Lake goes down into a bowl, and that's where it's at. There's been some issues up by Banks and also over this way. It'll help clear up that. It's also going to take care of part of our problem in the Bel Air and the southern part by South Torch Lake. So we're hoping that we can get that, keep moving that forward and get that done with. So that's about it. Any questions?
Not for
Yes,
me.
ma'am.
Sheriff, on behalf of myself and the board and community, please give Todd and Dean our well wishes. I've known them for a very, very long time on the department. And I just wanted to say I had a VSU call recently here, and I had a couple of your very young staff, and they were excellent. They were very kind and courteous, and they did an excellent job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Sheriff. Any other comments? All right, we'll move forward. Consent agenda. Anyone wish to pull any of the reports?
I do not.
All right, hearing none, then we will assume all reports are approved by consent. We will now move on to special reports. Jason, I know you didn't have a planning commission meeting, so you're off the hook this month.
Thank goodness, because today I'm racking my brain trying to remember what happened on the mower today, and I'm like, oh yeah, we didn't have a meeting.
Good. Kathy, any new FOIAs or a status report on the one that we do have?
Yep, well, we had 2 new ones come in since last month, but they were both very easily responded to and taken care of. But we still have one that's open, and it's the one that's been open for a while, but we are coming down to the end of that one, I believe. We are still waiting to get some tech support information and a couple of our commissioners that I haven't had response from.
And we've got one on the board, right, Jason?
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to mention names, but
Well, we're going to
Yeah,
mention
Jason.
Jason. You gotta
Jason.
get the information. Check with the clerk.
yeah, check with the clerk. So that's it for FOIA.
All right.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So what is the percent that's done on that current one now?
I would say 85%.
And the timing of when you think it's going to be complete?
Well, we had projected that we would be complete by last Friday, and I did send out an email to the requester stating that we were close but not done yet. He had commented previously that he didn't mind getting things piecemeal. So we have most of it loaded onto a flash drive, and that's going in the mail today. And then
Went in today already, or?
it's, yes. So that's the majority of it. This ended up being, I say hundreds, I don't know, it might be thousands of pages. The stack of documents that got submitted that we need to get to this requester is unbelievable. So we tried the flash drive, we tried to email what was on the flash drive, and it was too much information. So that's when we decided we needed to just mail the flash drive to the gentleman and then go from there. So that's about where we are.
So will we get a report when it's completed, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because the requester has already submitted based on our guesstimate of what the cost was going to be. They've already paid 2,000 some odd dollars for this FOIA. And so we'll have to, nail the prices down, and if we owe them money back or if they owe us, vice versa. But yes, there will be a complete report.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, financial overview. I'll make this quick. We're through our first quarter. June cash flow was negative by $352,000. This was primarily driven by the timing of expenses. The key analysis is looking at the variances versus the prior year, which was $243,000 above. In the budget, we were over by $150,000. Versus last year, the road fund was over $190,000 of the $243,000, and that's because we had the down payment for this year's road work of $187,000. What we had done in building the budget was to spread it over a few months, and it came in one lump sum. The balance of the 243 variance was $45,000 in the general fund, and that was primarily related to the timing on capital expenses. We had them a little later in the summer, and we got them done ahead of time. Versus the 22-23 budget, the $150,000 variance was, again, the timing of the road. The budget had roughly $35,000 in for partial payment, and again, it came in at $187,000. So other than that, looking ahead, our cash position remains in good shape. As the treasurer's report indicates, balance in the general fund of $987,000, the fire fund of $486,000, the ambulance fund was $542,000, and the road fund is $109,000. I'll be doing a cash flow forecast at the end of July to see how close we will be as we get closer to the December tax collections. Currently, the only risk we have in the funds is in the road fund, where at this point we'll have one payment due, which will be sometime in September or October. That would be roughly $123,000 versus the $109,000 that we have in the fund. We'll be short roughly $14,000. We had anticipated being short in the neighborhood of $34,000. The estimate was a little high. The prices came in lower. That $14,000 shortfall can be covered by some of the federal government money we got, or if the road millage passes, we'll have funds in December to cover that shortfall. All the other funds that we have are positive versus their budget for the first quarter. As a reminder, our taxes are collected primarily between December and February, so you will see a continuation of negative cash flows for the next 5 months. Continuing with our special report, we will start. I invited Elizabeth Colcutt, I've got that right, to speak to the board regarding the TART program, which is what brought out a number of people tonight. I met with Elizabeth and a number of residents and felt it was important for the board to hear her presentation. And as you see under new business, item 1, we have the opportunity to show our support for their preliminary work related to the development of a schematic design for the trailway through Torch Lake Township. So Elizabeth, the floor is yours. You're going to speak, all right?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
You can take that right out of there,
Pull it right
the
up.
whole microphone, or you
No,
can
no.
raise it up.
Just let them do it.
I can just walk around, like do the stand-up thing. and
Oh,
just
there you
walk
go.
around. No, I'll set it up.
You have to sing a song.
What's his
You do
name?
not want that, believe me. So thank you, Mr. Supervisor and members of the board. My name is Brent Bolin. I'm the executive director of the Top of Michigan Trails Council. So the Nequema Trailway is a collaboration between my organization and the TART Trails organization. So we run the trail work network to the north of you. So our trails start in Charlevoix and actually go all the way to Mackinac City and Alpena. So we're in all 8 counties at the tip of the Met. And then, of course, the TART Trails network is to the south of you. And the project that this conversation is part of is an effort to connect those 2 networks. So right now, you can bike from Alpena to Charlevoix on our trail network. When you're done, you'll be able to bike from Alpena. When we're done with this, you'll be able to bike from Alpena to Sutton's Bay, or from here to Sutton's Bay, which is probably more interest to you. So just to talk a little bit about like the big picture. So like I said, this is a big project, and it's a collaboration between our 2 organizations. The name Nequema is an Ojibwe word that means where paths connect. We felt that it was a really appropriate name to recognize the history of this area and the presence of those people in the past and the present, and the trails that have been through this area for a long time. Although Traverse City to Charlevoix is easier to kind of figure out where it goes, I will admit. But we're really here tonight to talk to you about a trail segment in the Eastport community, in the Torch Lake Township community. So the whole thing is a 46-mile trail. You don't need to worry about the whole thing. That's our problem. What we want to do is have a conversation with you and members of the community about what trail makes sense for your community. So we only build trails that communities want built in the place they want them built. So that part of it's really important. So there is a bigger vision that you will be connected to, but I mean, really we're focusing on, what would you like to accomplish in your township? What would be a connection that makes sense to you? The trail team that we've been meeting with, as they said, it's the Torch to Bay. So we have sort of a preliminary idea of maybe the Torch Lake Day Park to Barnes Park is a possible sensible connection, but we could come down to here. There's lots of options, and this is sort of early in the process and early in the conversation. And I think you heard a lot from the people that spoke tonight about different benefits of trails. I don't want to go on too much about that, but I will say in our trail network, we have really busy trails like the Little Traverse Wheelway through Petoskey, Harbor Springs, and Charlevoix. And we also have trails on the east side of the state that aren't as busy. And we have had conversations with those communities about like, what does the trail bring to your community? And in Vanderbilt, they said, hey, having this trail here gives us an option for new parents to push a stroller, for older people to walk. There's someone with a motorized wheelchair in that community that now has someplace to go. And they also said that I think it's an Easy Mart that's right next to the trail that's their only sort of store in Vanderbilt. They feel that the extra business that store gets from the trail has helped that store stay open, which has been a benefit to the community as well. So we hear stories like that from other communities, and lots of research in lots of places has shown that when people are on their bikes in your community, they pass through more slowly, they stop more often, and they spend more money. So that being said, as Jim and others pointed out, the people that use the trail are in your community. So we just counted the people that use the Little Traverse Wheelway. And so think about how busy that is in Petoskey and Bayfront Park and all that. So we counted 116,000 users, right, which is a lot of people, but half those people were local, right? So even in like as touristy as that can get and as busy as that can get, half the people were still local. As people walking their dog, daily run, folks out for a walk. So I just want to kind of give like that context. There's an economic benefit on the tourism side, but then there's also a community benefit to you and your residents in that connection. And a number of people actually did a really amazing job saying that, so thank you. And that's kind of the background of why you would want to do this, and the context for the project in general, the conversation about a trail connection through this community in this area between Charlevoix and Traverse City. The roots of it go back 20 years. It really began to move in earnest 10 years ago, you know how long planning processes take and getting onto transportation plans with the state and your local plans and all those things. And, you know, really started moving in about 2015, where sort of a concept plan was developed of, you know, what could this trail look like and where could it go? And so obviously one of the places it was imagined to come through was through your community in the US 31 corridor. And so in 2019, with some state funding, we got a contract with an engineering firm to do schematic design for the whole corridor. And Elizabeth is our project manager, and she's a planner, and she's gonna talk about all that stuff. But basically, schematic design is sort of the first step. There's a concept like, hey, where would we want to put a trail? Maybe between point A and point B. And then schematic design is where the engineers come in and look and see how a trail from point A to point B could be feasible. So that's the point at which we're at now. We have funding to do that bit of schematic design. And so we want to have a conversation with community members and the board just about that process. And so, like I said, it's early. There's lots of opportunities for input on where it should go, to answer questions, and all that kind of stuff. But that's the phase that we're in now. And I think that's probably a good place to sort of pass it over to Elizabeth to talk a little bit more about the process piece of it. So,
All right,
Thank
thank you.
oh, and while she does that, I do have some copies of our annual report for members of the board or the general public. If you want to know more about our organization and the trails we work on all over the place, we just opened the Boyne Valley Trailway in 2020 that runs from Boyne City to Boyne Falls through Boyne Mountain. And we're working on the Boyne City to Charlevoix Trail that Norton mentioned. That phase 3 is hopefully going to break ground in the next 6 to 12 months. So we're working on that as well. So if you want to copy that, I can give you one.
Great, thank you. Now she's got to lower it.
Not too far.
All right, again, I'm Elizabeth Calcutt, Project Manager with the Noquema Trailway and Trail Development Director at Tart Trails, based in Traverse City. We appreciate your time tonight. And the handouts, one of them is just a blow up of one of the slides. I know that print gets small and scratchy looking. And then our case statement, which just outlines the project nicely. Some good photos just to give an idea of what the feeling.
Can everybody hear
trail.
her at the microphone? You got to really talk into that.
All right, there you go. I got it. All right, thank you. So following those slides and what Brent shared already and some great comments tonight, slide about process, how will the trail be built? So not quickly, we know that, based on experience. And as mentioned already, we go where there's community interest and support. It's a collaboration. We work with local units of government, state government, stakeholders, the public. It's a value and data-driven process, so that we are always looking at meeting the specific values and needs of the community that we're working in, and then also working with a professional design engineering firm that can provide data-driven analysis. So looking at constructability that takes into account physical constraints and property ownership, environmental considerations, recreation experience, political factors, cost considerations. And that brings us to the funding of trail, critical to development process, and that we look at a 60-40 split typically is what we shoot for between public and private sources. So again, a 60-40, and I did that one is on a slide, and that's just a goal, that 60-40 split. It can shake out some of our trails. We see there's more public dollars going towards them, and some of them it's actually more private dollars. And it also could depend on your sources and how you want to develop a trail. If you don't want to meet the federal criteria for certain things, you might try and get more private funds. But within those public dollars, it's a lot of different grants, state, federal, also contributions from local units of government. That local buy-in is a critical part as we move forward in engineering and construction. And with that fundraising, we also look at the long-term maintenance. So part of the engineers' work, when they come up with those cost estimates, there's also an estimate of what maintenance looks like. And so as part of fundraising efforts, we work with each individual community to come up with cost estimates and then identified sources and a structure that works for each community, and that's different and unique. Where we are today, we have, as already shared, TART and Top of Michigan are working with a number of communities along the corridor. We have a few key active areas in Acme. We currently have 2 miles under construction right now, and that's our first segment of the Nequema Trailway that builds on the existing TART trail network and then connects to businesses. It goes up to Meyer and then down to Acme's Township Park and connections to neighborhoods. And then we have active segments in Charlevoix connecting to Fisherman's Island State Park. That's in the design phase. And then Elk Rapids to Maple Bay Natural Area. That's like 3 miles of separated trail and 2 miles through the village. And then as shared, this past year, we heard a growing interest from the Torch Lake Township and Eastport area. And so we've started to meet with interested community members. And now there's an active group called the Torch to Bay Trail Team that has been helping inform us on really what the goals and interests and vision of this community are for the Nequema Trailway. That trail development slide I shared, that's really just an overview, stepping back and looking at trail development. Those are really rough timelines and estimates, I would say goals. But again, as Brent mentioned, we are looking at schematic design. So we've completed the conceptual planning process. We actually approved the conceptual plan, I believe it was here in December 2015. I remember, I don't know if anyone was there, but there was a really great cake in the back. I just remember that. And this process, some of the key components of it would be public and stakeholder engagement, revisiting the evaluation from 2015 of different routes. So taking a deeper look at that, more engineering, what is viable. And then finalizing that route and coming up with cost estimates, so to figure out where we go from there. This is, again, preliminary work informed by the community and an engineering firm. Are there any questions about the trail planning and development process or thoughts?
Well, this Torch to Bay team is my first tonight. I've never heard of it till now. So I'm kind of overwhelmed with everything that's been said because I've been totally unaware of anything going on. So I'm listening, I'm taking notes. I do see them. I mean, my concerns is the highway, US 31, 88, that entails a lot of Michigan Department of Highways. We've been down that path many a times, trying to get red lights and certain things. Road Commission. My question here was how many miles of estimated trail, the local trail that they're talking Bay to Torch to Bay team, I didn't know, but something said 46 miles. I don't know what that was.
So that's the connection. It's a roughly 46 miles between Acme, where the TART trail
so
terminus.
it's not this. So cross that
No.
off in my notes here. I don't even know.
As far as that, could I start answering a few of those?
Okay.
As far as just that most immediate one, scope and where the distance is that we're looking at, we are, while this group has started meeting, we are truly just picking up from where conceptual plan was in 2015. And there's just a group of interested residents that has led us to be here tonight. There's nothing that, we haven't had any additional engineering done. It's really to see if there's interest in moving forward and to start reaching out to the public so more people are aware and start inviting more people to the table, more stakeholders, the public, and gathering that input. So it just takes, as Brent said, these trails are community driven. And so we are looking for, we've heard there's an interest, and that's why we're here tonight before we take that next step. And that next step will also be trying to figure out what the scope, like where is the desired destinations? Is it going all the way to Eastport Market or Old Dixie? Are we going all the way to the township facility here? What are meaningful community connections? TBD.
That is to be determined then.
Yes.
Okay, that's in a work environment stage type of scenario then, correct? Is that where I'm getting?
So we have a design engineering firm under contract for
Okay.
the width of, I mean, the length of the trail. So
So
they're
nothing-
actively working with
Okay.
us.
Okay, so that hasn't been started yet or anything. So I know the governor has, being on the MTA board, has issued a lot of grants, the state of Michigan has a lot of grant money, tons of grant money right now in recreation and so forth. So that is something to certainly look into. That's huge right now. The money's there.
And only for
We
a
gotta
few
go grab
years.
it. We got to grab it. So I don't know where that's at. My thing is, how do you even get started? Where are we at? I'm not sure, because this is the first time I've heard of any of this. So I guess I don't have a lot of questions other than what notes I took. I don't know processes or where to go or how much area that the Torch to Bay team has been looking at. I don't know any of that.
Yeah, so I think that that's all flexible. So one thing I'd say, because we work in so many different communities, there's more than one way to kind of set up this relationship. In the Burt Lake Trail that's going around the north side of Burt Lake, there's people from the township that are involved in the committee. There's people from the community, and that committee really drives the development of that trail. And my organization is just like more in a supportive role. Whereas in other trails, sometimes we're more in the driver's seat if it crosses lots and lots of communities, or if there's a community that doesn't have a lot of bandwidth. So it's like, it looks different in different places. So I think that, what makes sense to you is fine. If one of you wanted to start attending the meetings that the commission does, that would be, or that the trail team has started doing, that would be fine. Or if you wanted to, have that group report out to you, have us come and report out to you, there's lots of ways to do it, but we're just trying to figure out, the thing is, I'm sure you've all experienced this, right? As elected officials, it's really hard to make the general public feel like they know what's going on and have had adequate notice. You can like sit with somebody down at their dinner table and then they'll come at a meeting and yell at you about something. So, that's the reality of it. So we want to do like these public conversations and engagement early and often and in different formats. And, having the Torch Lake Cafe available to host is great because, not everybody wants to come to a township meeting or can or whatever. And so you have to kind of meet people where they are sometimes. So there's different options, I guess is what I would say.
So
for
what
how
we're
to do
looking
that.
at is two different phases, two different projects, this project and the Elk Rapids to Charlevoix project. That's what,
Yeah, so you really only
there's two
have,
different things we're talking about tonight here, right?
yeah, but you don't have to worry about the big picture thing because you have to figure out what you want the trail to look like in your community. What it looks like when it leaves your township line is our problem, not yours, in some ways. See, Elizabeth doesn't like this, but.
Oh, man.
It's still part of the Nequema Trailway project, and one of the points in that resolution, it shares that we have the funding for schematic design. That funding was received as a $2.4 million appropriation from the state to plan the Nequema Trailway.
In
And that
that
money
one.
can go
Okay.
specific to this community to support that early schematic. And in Elk Rapids, there was an Elk Rapids trail team, and it really is just interested and engaged community members that can help carry it forward. We know that adding one more thing to your docket, that is how trails are built. It takes some engaged, committed community members to work towards it, and that's really what we have here. And then it's your preference for how we, is a member of the trail team, is it one of us, how often we attend meetings or share project updates with you. In different townships, we submit monthly reports. Sometimes it's an annual visit. It can take different.
All right, any other questions? Sharon?
No, I know that the group here, some of them are seasonal, they kind of come and go. I don't know how often they meet or however. I would be interested in just listening to something like that because this is new for me. I've never been hearing about. I honk my horn when I drive into work when Norton's crossing the road, and I'm only honking to say hi, not get out of my way. So that's a double beep I do in there. So other than that, I don't know. I don't have any other questions. other than I was thinking it was two different plans here.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you've got a main thoroughfare and then spikes off of it.
And that's a big dollar budget you have in there already
Because
lined
if you're
up.
including Eastport, you're taking a right-hand turn on 88, or are you planning on using 88 to get to somewhere else to get to Charlevoix?
We are planning to go north and south
31?
31 through,
Okay.
yeah. That's the Nequema is a north and south trail. So that's what like the big picture pot of funding Elizabeth was talking about is tied to. Once you get that in, if Bel Air to Central Lake goes forward, and we're working with them on that too, then when that trail's done, making that connection from Central Lake to, then that becomes easier. If they get that trail done and we get this trail done, then that M88 trail gets easier. And that's often how it happens, is those things are kind of additive over time. But you know, specifically, we're trying to go through this.
You need the main
corridor.
artery and then the veins come out afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and you know, you guys are aware of the geography around here, so we kind of have to come right through that area.
I
and
was
so-
going to say, we're the bottleneck if we're not on board.
Well, I wouldn't think of it that way, but
What
you
did
know,
you say, Bob?
Well, it's,
We're
our
the roadblock.
community is
yeah,
kind of right in the middle, and we're the narrowest part that
Right.
that's true.
we've got to
We got-
figure out.
We
And
got houses right on the highway.
Right.
almost.
well, and look, and the truth is like that M88 31 intersection is a sticky wicket. You're well aware of that. But having something like a process around a bike ped facility like this going on gives you leverage in conversations with MDOT. And as part of all that funding you're talking about, MDOT actually has sort of a special program that they're developing. I don't think they've really like rolled it out yet. That's specifically to like go and revisit problematic intersections. So like you said, there's a number of things that are coming together that we could possibly, you know, leverage all at the same time. And, you know, just for like another one of my stories of little communities up in Toppinabee, so they got a trailhead on the North Central State Trail. Then they used the trailhead to go out and get Natural Resources Trust Fund money to build a bathroom. Then after that, they went and built a public access beach, a playground. They converted the old train station into their library. And that whole hub exists because like they did the trailhead and then leverage everything off that, because that's kind of how these different pots of state money work, right? If you've gotten recreation money to do one project and then to do a park, and then you say, I want to do a dock at the park, then you can go back and get the money. And so these things can be like additive for your community as well. So it can help bring in resources over time.
We have a commissioner here that is on the road commission as a liaison. So I don't know if M88 and 31 has ever been really heavily discussed at all. But we can always bring it up at the road commission too and see where they stand on all that. I know they know the area and they know the road very well, so.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, you know, we could go all the way to the, you know, the township border at Old Dixie or whatever, or not. You know, so whatever you guys want to do. And really kind of all the ask is tonight is just like, hey, like, will you be part of working on this with us? That's really all it is. Because of course, MDOT and anybody else wants to know if you guys aren't on board. You know, it's important that you guys are at least in the loop. And that's all really the ask is tonight is just, hey, this is what's going on. Is it okay with you if we keep moving forward and engage in a conversation with you about it?
And that's part of the resolution, is they sent me a draft. I doctored it up a little bit. The idea would be that we're interested in seeing what they have in the plans and support their work in that direction. But at this point, that's all we're committing to. So we'll take it up under our point number 1 under new business. Great, thank you. All right,
I
do you have a question?
Absolutely.
Well, you're.
You didn't ask me.
You're so quiet though.
Not normal.
Is this gonna be like an eminent domain thing? Like the landowners
No,
will lose their property?
no.
Is this gonna be run right up along the highway then?
Maybe, because, I mean, typically, like, whatever, I mean, Elizabeth would know this better, but if the actual pavement's 50 feet wide, the state-owned right-of-way might be 100 feet wide, and then you use that excess space for part of where you run the trail. But there's not,
Hey,
So we're not in, no. So we don't, like, there's never any eminent domain ever. And very rarely there might be something where like, oh, well, you might have a weird situation where instead of, where the right of way narrows down and you might have to talk to somebody about paying them for an easement or something like that, but it would always be,
Okay.
nobody's coerced to do anything.
So your goal is to follow 31 as close as possible.
For the
I
most
wish
part,
I could
yeah.
zoom in on this right here.
I know.
And the 60/40 doesn't say which way it goes either.
Public.
60's public.
So there does have to be like local match in that, but you're a really small part of the 60. It's mostly state and federal.
Well,
Because we're a long
Brent-
township. We're
Yeah.
a long,
Brent, I
a
think
long
we've got the gist of it.
Okay.
So,
So it's-
next question.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm a property owner close and, I don't necessarily know if I want it running through mine, so
You don't want it in your backyard?
it's going to be running through yours too.
Just a quick add, very brief. We only work with willing landowners, and it will be, as we move forward, schematic. Every landowner might not weigh in. I mean, we'll reach out to, and we will do outreach to everyone in this corridor. But as we move forward in design, it is, right now for Elk Rapids to Maple Bay, it is landowner by landowner. And where there are pinch points, it's seeing if a landowner is willing to potentially provide easements, or is it seeking a design exception and coming up with some type of facility.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. All right, Tom, you're looking for the screen to come down.
No, well, yeah, but I wasn't gonna do it until everybody's ready. You
All
ready?
right,
Now I hope the projector comes on.
then board will take a break before we start new business.
Bob, can I just say something about that?
Real quickly, please.
Okay, it was just that it doesn't necessarily have to go along 31. It would be hope perhaps people would go through Barnes Park, because veer away, go through Barnes Park, and then end up on the road. But it is this how long is Torch Lake Township? Like 3 miles?
9.
5?
9.
9. No, it's a long one.
It's a long way.
But it isn't, it's not 100% sure that it would be always a long.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm asking, because I'm right next to Barnes Park with 17 acres, so. Yes.
Prior experience with this, where I lived downstate and put the bike trails through. Beautiful asphalt strip, it crossed my whole yard and my driveway, and the township kept the snow off in the winter, and it was grass I didn't have to mow in the summer. I loved it.
I bet you did. I like to hunt on my land, though.
Tom, how do you want us out there to watch the screen?
That would be best.
All right.
I have a PowerPoint presentation if we get the projector to come on.
That's that little white remote.
Yeah, well, I can find the remote.
You can't, it's used to be, it's up here. I was gonna say, it used to be on the cart. Here's the cart.
Are we supposed to go sit out there?
Yeah. It's be a lot easier to see it.
Tom, I know I got you squeezed on time, but.
Yeah, I'll go do it pretty quick.
All right, thank you. Looks like it's going on. Did you plug it in?
Yeah.
You really did. Check this out. All right, I was working at home. Please. tap the remote.
All right, well, while we're trying to get through our technical difficulties, I'll try to tell you what the PowerPoint presentation was going to try to tell you. I'm part of the Torch Lake Protection Alliance, and we are very concerned, and our members are very concerned, that Torch Lake is at a turning point. We've seen a growth of algae on the bottom of the lake for the last 15 years, progressively get worse each year. We've seen a lot of other indications visually and anecdotally where the lake is affected by either a heavy rainfall or too much ice in the winter, which ice is supposed to be good, by the way, for algae. And the concerns of our memberships keep asking us, what are we doing about the algae? Well, in the last 50 years, there's been a lot of research and a lot of testing that's been done at Torch Lake by fragmented efforts from a number of different organizations and universities and things. Specific to the golden brown algae, which is the number one concern, the Three Lakes Association, which covers Torch Lake, Clam Lake, and Lake Bel Air, have been engaged with Dr. Stevenson out of Michigan State University to study the algae and its progression over the last several years. Torch Lake Protection Alliance did a study in 2020, 2 years ago, specifically of the algae in the near shore zone and added to some of that research. Now today, after the last 12 months of effort, we have a collaboration between 3 organizations, the Torch Lake Protection Alliance, the Three Lakes Association, and the Torch Conservation Center. And in this collaboration, we've engaged with and have a contract with U.S. Geological Survey to take and put a very high-level study of Torch Lake with 2 goals. One is to try to crack the code on this golden brown algae that's been worked on with a lot of theories and hypotheses, but no concrete evidence of exactly what's causing it. And the second goal is to establish a long-term monitoring and assessment program so that the next event that comes along, like this golden brown algae, we'll have the science behind it to study the trends so that we can stop it in its tracks. One of the weaknesses that we do have in trying to unravel exactly why the golden brown algae is here and why it grows each year is we never had a consistent trend analysis of the constituents in the lake and the lake ecology to the level that we need to understand what's happening. So, wind the clock back a couple of months. We started working with USGS in June of 2021, a little over a year ago. And when we established enough information to have a memorandum of understanding, and we wanted to go to a contract phase, we found that we needed some help to get some federal government sharing money. And that's where Antrim County, well, Torch Lake Township helped us first, then Antrim County had to sign off on a fiduciary contract with us. So basically the people responsible for writing a check to USGS is Antrim County. And then of course Antrim County turned around and told us that we can't start anything until we put money in escrow, which we've been doing. We've got 2022 covered and we're working on 2023. So the goal is that with the strength and the reputation and the science capabilities of USGS, we can take and really up our game in understanding the golden brown algae in the next year or two and establish this scientific trend data to the level that we need in the future, so future generations, when something does appear in the lake, will have the data and say, well, we can pinpoint what the source is and hopefully identify remedial actions. So that's where we are with our collaboration with the 3 associations. We've been working very hard since June 10th. What happened on June 10th was we filled this room. I think we had 51 guests, which I went over by 1, by the way. I promised you only 50. Sorry. But we had a 6-hour science meeting that day. We had all of the local agencies from DNR, Eagle, Tip of the Mitt. All those people came here and spent the entire day with us after doing a lot of homework. We gave them a research book that was all online, but it contained hundreds of reports over many years. It was all categorized by what subject it was. We asked them to review much of that applied to them. We came here and discussed the main hypotheses of the golden brown algae and the data that was available. We worked, I think, very well to rank what the hypotheses were, and everyone gave input in what we should do going forward. At the end of that, we all went back to work to refine the plan and to try to put together a cost estimate of what it's going to cost. And that's the fun part. We talked about fundraising, a little bit about a bike path. I wish that's all I had to do. So roughly in terms of money, 2022 cost about $50,000. We got $15,000 from the federal government sharing. The rest of it's all paid for. But in 2023, we're looking at somewhere just over $200,000. 2024 is going to be 200 plus another 50. And 2024 is going to be a little bit more than that. So in rough numbers, it's a little over $600,000 that we need for the next 3 years. And we are starting with 0. So we have a fundraising campaign that started. We're asking people to donate to, we have a lake management fund that's set up. It's Terry Malone Memorial Fund. Terry Malone is the person that passed away that's been very dedicated to the well-being of Torch Lake over many years. We have a website set up. We even have one of those little squares so people run their credit card across, which we did that after a gym meeting, and we got a couple. But that's where our effort is right now, trying to collect some funds, some donors from fundraising activities, and get prepared for next year. Because a lot of equipment's got to be ordered and a lot of testing's got to be scheduled. So that's where we are. Thank you. Sorry about the lack of power. Thank you for trying.
Oh, do you have to turn the lights back on?
We could have stayed in the dark, right? All right, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Tom, what is the best way to get that information out to the public then?
Well, we have a newsletter that we've sent out. We did a press release shortly after the June 10th meeting. We were on 9 to 10 News. That cameraman was on my top. And we have an annual meeting in August where we're inviting our membership so we can go over it again. And that's basically it. I mean, we did discuss maybe asking each of the townships to have like a little town hall information meeting to let them know what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I still think it's a good idea. The fundraising committee is just now at the point where they're ready to go public. They have a paper that they prepared within their committee, and I just proofread it yesterday.
Your flyers can be handed out and,
Yeah, and those will go out mailings, hard mailings. Everything's on the website, so they're trying a lot of different ways of getting to it. But you know, when people come up here and it's summer, they go up. They want to enjoy being up here. So
right.
it's not easy to get a hold of people and get your message across. But we'll try all those methods.
Do you guys have a Facebook account?
Oh yeah, it's all on Facebook.
Do you? You gotta put a link on there for your fundraising and stuff for people to share?
Yep. It's the Torch Lake Protection Alliance is the name of Facebook.
I'm gonna go join it.
All right, thank you. Board, will move on to the next item. We have board action. We have no old business. We have 3 items for new business.
Did we do did I miss something?
Maybe.
Were we going to do a resolution for the TART or not?
Well, that's item number 1.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
New business.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yep, thank you. All right, well, we heard a lot from Elizabeth and Brent. So what you were given is a resolution number 2022-10, which again was kind of reworked. And the idea here is for us to allow them to, or at least support them in the schematic design. And in the resolution that I gave you, the second or the last whereas, where it says, whereas the Torch to Bay Trail Team, second sentence has a word future, and I'd like to scratch that word out and put in schematic design. Because that's really all this document relates to is the schematic design work that's being undertaken, it's being
So
funded.
any funds for schematic designs of this?
Yeah, any funds
you're
for the
saying.
schematic design work. That way, we understand that they're not asking us for money on this phase. But as they mentioned, as the phases go on, they may come back and ask for money again. I've kind of told them there's not money in the budget. I've given them that heads up ahead of time. But at least I think that, you know, we want to be supportive and be one of the communities along the line that is helping them with the schematic design phase.
Because the two above there has that in there. Is that all right there, or?
It is. I was looking at the fact that I used the word future. It can be
Okay.
duplicative. Again, this is a draft. We can change the word.
Right.
Do you want to leave the first one in or take it out?
Well, I like where they have secured the funding.
That's fine. Well, let's remove the last whereas then.
The last whereas,
Yeah.
the Torch to Bay Trail team.
Yep.
Yeah, I would,
That's fine. That's why we work it out. Any other comments on the draft? If not, then do I have a motion related to Resolution 2022-10?
so the motion is to approve supporting the development of
Want me
as
to do it?
presented.
I'm sorry.
You want me to do it?
It's up to you.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-10, supporting the efforts of Tartan developing a schematic design for the trailway through Torch Lake Township as presented.
And I'll second it. Any discussion on the motion? Motion has been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2022-10, supporting the efforts of Tartan developing a schematic design for the trailway through Torch Lake Township as presented. Any discussion on the motion?
No, this is just to get more information, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Hearing none. Kath, would you do a roll call vote?
I will. My book came apart, so I lost the motion, but that's okay. I'll find it. No, I have that. No. What he read.
That's
on the
right.
back side.
It's-
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Well, then I want to be on this side. Okay, so Bob, you're first.
Yes.
Alan would be absent. Jason,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes,
and myself, I'll vote yes. So this resolution 2022-10 passes 4-0.
You got it, folks.
I have
Thank you
one,
for coming.
I have one question. or
Yes.
Comment, I should say. Who's going to complete this and get this to them?
I'll work with you on that.
We always say we're doing things and nobody finishes
See?
the project, so,
If you notice, I said I would work with you.
okay. I'll put my name on here then,
That's fine.
put it in this pile.
All right. Item number 2, when you're ready, Kathy.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Is that mine?
That's yours.
Okay, gotcha. The Metro Act is something that the township has approved for a number of years. It's giving them permission to pass through our township with, in this case, it was Great Lakes Energy. And Sharon just shot off a number to me, and I don't recall the number, but it was something like $2,000 or several $1,000s that we make from this.
We don't make from it.
How-
The Metro Act is the right of way along here, and lines are
Right.
buried in there. So it's not there's a lot of lines buried through here. So they just bury their lines through here.
Yeah,
So
it's just giving them permission to continue doing what they've already been doing for a long, long time.
the last Metro Act we received in the 5th of this month was $2,148. and we put that in the road fund per auditors.
So that's all that we're asking for, is for us to continue to approve this. So the
I'll make the
motion is.
motion.
Whoops. Sure.
You said underground, but what they're talking about, the Jew stream, that's all pole to pole. It's already out there.
Yeah, they've,
Electric. Broadband internet, is that what you mean? They already hold the franchise to provide electricity, and this Metro Act franchise will allow it to also offer broadband internet service in your area.
Yeah, but it's not underground. It's pole to pole. You look across, the street, there's a big oil, black wire.
Yes, yes,
That's what that is.
that's
But,
them.
but the pole to pole is on the right of ways, so they consider that a right of way. So that's what I was referring. It's either underground or by pole, so.
Okay.
I didn't want to see them doing dredging.
They won't do this, not.
Okay, so is there any more confusion about this then? Or are we clear that it's just continuing what they've already been doing, right? So the motion would be to approve the Great Lakes Energy permit application as presented.
I'll second.
Okay,
all right,
I did,
Oh,
Kathy made it.
I had done it first, but that's okay.
and Mr. Merchant seconded, right?
All right, so therefore the motion has been moved and seconded to approve the Great Lakes Energy permit application as presented. Hey, Tom? Tom?
Sir.
Thank you. As presented, any further discussion?
Yeah, who actually made that motion? Because I
I
made
did.
it once and now I heard somebody else, so.
You did.
You did, you made it.
She did?
Yeah, and you, Jason.
I seconded it. Kathy
I
read
thought
it.
I was reading it and then
She
Jason
read,
seconded.
she read the motion.
She did?
into
Where
it.
was I? Was I sleeping again?
Your book
Because I
fell
want to be able
apart.
to do this correctly when we get it,
All right.
send it out to them,
So-
so.
Okay, so
So we'll
motion by Schultz, seconded by Merchant.
That's fine.
And the vote is Mr. Bob,
Yes.
Alan would be absent, Mr. Jason,
Yes.
Ms. Sharon,
Yes.
and myself, yes. This motion passes 4-0.
Did you get that, Veronica?
Of course
All
she
right.
did.
Last item.
So again, my question is, who will finish this process and get it in the mail?
You and I, Sharon.
Well, then I'll give you the packet that Dykema sent to us. It's on my desk.
That would be fine.
Tomorrow?
If you'd like.
All right, we'll move on to item number 3, resolution for budget realignment. So this request is a little unusual as we rarely move budget dollars around prior to Sharon's requested amendments. However, in this case, we need to realign items to better track the expenses associated with the clerk's office. The short story is I spoke to Kathy and outlined that, as she has insisted, she can do what remains on her job. Therefore, it would make sense that we reduce the expenditures budgeted for the deputy clerk's role to a minimum. Kathy and I discussed that the deputy's focus will be on learning the responsibilities of running an election. Consequently, we do not need to have a deputy clerk doing any of the work in the clerk's office. The deputy clerk has worked as an understudy for the past 18 months and should have the fundamental skill sets and knowledge well in hand to step in on any short-term basis for the clerk. We have completed the move of the accounting work to Deb Broderick as passed at the last meeting and was supported by the clerk. Kathy retains supervisory responsibility over the role. Payroll was moved over a year and a half ago. She retains the statutory duty of signing checks and reviewing the monthly clerk's report for the board and approving the payroll. In addition, she still serves as the FOIA coordinator. Therefore, I'm proposing that we let the clerk do the remaining parts of her job and have the deputy perform a limited amount of work related to elections. I'm requesting the board move funds out of the deputy clerk's line item in the budget of $7,500 and $400 from the clerical assistant line and put the funds in a new expense line, which is the accounting assistant for $5,400, which is in the clerk. So we're moving money from one line item to another to better track the costs of the accounting. And the balance of the reduction is going into the township's legal expense line of $2,500 to cover the costs of the aviation legal work approved by the board last month. I indicated in that meeting I would find funds for that expense, and I am proposing that change here. In addition, I was going to move money from the ZBA account of $1,500 and moving that into the general body account as well, which gives us 4,000 additional funds in the legal account, which takes care of the issue that I foresee as the bill coming from the aviation lawyers. So is there any discussion related to the changes I am proposing?
I have an original one. A new account number was created. It said to be determined. Was that 215-703-040?
040, yes.
Okay.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Is there a second? I will second it. The motion to approve budget amendment resolution 2022-11, realignment of 2022-2023 budget dollars as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Kathy, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Wendy, yes. Merchant,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Martell absent, and Schultz.
Yes.
Thank you, board. That completes our new business.
One more question or comment? Do
Yeah,
I
who's gonna
do this
it?
too?
Yes, yes, ma'am. And I'm right there with you.
Okay.
I'm not asking you to do anything that I'm not going to help you with.
Gotcha.
All right, board. The board discussion is, I removed that so we can move on to information purposes only. That's quick. I was talking to our EMS director, and one of the things that we have is an EMS employee handbook. The thing is, it's related to the TAA handbook, and we shared that because of our relationship with them. So over the next 30 days, we will have to rewrite a handbook for our EMS team and make it an attachment or addendum to our regular employee handbook. So that's a project we'll be undertaking in the next month. And then an update on the grant funding for the day park. Number one, they do not give you money to operate the day park. So operating the day park will still have to be funded out of ours. For the boat launch, there's two avenues. There's the avenue of the, I think it's called the START program. That's the new grant fund money, $65 million for the recreation area, if you will. Or we work through the waterways group, which is part of DNR. The difference between the two is that if we go with the START, the work that we do, the engineering, all that is our upfront cost. Once we complete it, then we go to them and present our case to see if they'll fund it. I'm not sure I want to put that kind of money out to do the engineering study on that. The waterway is that they'll come out and they'll look at it, and if they'll propose changes, and if we're interested in their changes, then they have money as well to finance it. So the people were supposed to put me in touch with the waterway folks.
Is
Yes,
that just in relation to the ramp? or
Just the
park?
ramp.
Just the ramp.
and I tried to get money for the road work that we did at the park, but they don't do it in reverse.
Yeah.
So one of the things they did say they would finance is if we want to do any land improvement in the day park, flower beds, different beds for protecting the shoreline, they would provide funding for that, but only the funding to put it in, nothing for replacement and caring for it. So as of right now, we don't have any money coming in, the bottom line. And I will be working to try to get something for the boat ramp because the bottom two concrete slabs have moved and that's just going to continue to be a problem for us. That concludes that section. So we will move to our final citizen comment. Please stick to 4 minutes, if you would, please.
Yeah, I forgot to mention earlier that Bert Thompson did contact the Michigan Department of Transportation regarding a traffic signal down here to Barnes Park and 31. Yep. And there isn't enough, their threshold, there isn't enough to put a traffic light there at this time. Expanding the park next year, the septic system and stuff there can handle up to 160 campsites, which is what the expansion goal is going to be. But even at that, it doesn't look like that's enough traffic to do it. So it's probably going to have to be like 3 times as much traffic as what we have now, which means it's going to be pretty bad, in my opinion. But that's my opinion.
What about a roundabout?
Excuse me?
Roundabout.
I can ask about it. I asked about the traffic signal first, so.
Someone that
I think
is
a
down that road.
roundabout, from what I've seen at the road commission meetings, they're gonna say no, because a roundabout is a lot more expensive than a traffic signal. I mean, I think a roundabout, all told, is like $1 million.
Yeah, it's big and you'll have to carve out spaces out of the various corners to put that thing in. But here, the problem is that
Such an angle.
it took a long time for them to put no passing zone in front of the whites until 2 people got killed. So it's only a matter of time in the summer months, somebody's going to get T-boned there. And at that point, then they'll decide, well, geez, maybe we ought to do something.
Unfortunately, in my road commission meetings, they do look a lot at traffic safety studies. So if there hasn't been an accident, then there's no problem. So that's a problem, but.
It's fine. We appreciate bringing back the bad news.
I mean, I don't think we need a light all year, just 2 months out of the year.
Even a caution.
For someone that lives on that road, I make my kids go past it and go to the store sometimes.
Oh, really?
Well, because you got people that come behind you and they just fly right
Such an
around you.
angle, such an angle.
It's terrible.
All right, any other comments? All right.
So I sure changed you. I just realized we didn't get to talk about the Milton Township stuff. Do you want to take a few minutes to talk about it?
Now, we'll bring that at, I had a question from Sharon as to the intent of that. And really the intent was just to bring that out, but what I'll do is I'll bring that up as a separate discussion item next time.
Yeah, okay. I think it's worthwhile topic because I know that in my involvement in this township, it's been at least 10 years since it's been discussed in general.
So the idea is we discuss, if you would highlight in there, and instead of making everybody read through all the pages, highlight what the key aspects would be. And then you and I could maybe sit down and put a PowerPoint page together to walk people through and keep it kind of simple, but get the point across.
All right.
All right?
Very good.
All right. If there's no other comment, then board comment?
Yep.
Kathy?
No, August, I was going to say November. We're not there yet. I don't want to wish the summer over. August 2nd election, don't forget. ID cards are going in the mail. We have lost our commission districts 1 and 3, and we are now combined into County Commission District 2. And you will notice that on your ballot in that we don't have the 2 commission districts any longer. So you're all going to get a new ID card that just says 2 instead of 1 or 3. We're almost up to 300 absentee ballots, which means Election Day might be quieter because people have voted ahead. I have a team of 12 people that will be working the election, and we hope we see you one way or the other, either by absentee or come in and place your vote in person, and we'll give you a sticker that says you voted.
We gotta buy lollipops or something.
I need something, don't I?
Yeah, stickers just, you know.
Stinking sticker doesn't do it anymore, does
Tootsie
it?
Roll Pops or
I could do
something.
something, yeah.
Sharon?
The second half of our ARPA money came in this month,
Good. So that was 61,
61,
62,000?
62, yeah.
Yeah. Good.
All right, that'll pay for our boat ramp.
We got several years to decide what we're going to do with it.
Yes, good. That's the key thing. The idea is that's a nice little
So
rainy
it
day
can earn
fund.
interest.
Jason, comments? Come on,
No comment.
no insight. How'd your softball team do?
Took second place out of 64 teams.
Wow.
Nationally?
No, just the state
Oh,
of Michigan,
state.
downstate.
All right, good. Mine is the road millage. I received a phone call from an individual that told me that I'm inappropriately pushing the road millage as supervisor. Now, I'm not sure what that means, so all I'm saying is I'm urging people to go and vote, and if you vote against it, we won't have any money to repair the roads. So I will let you decide how you want to vote for that millage. And with that,
Which also brings up the other one. We're getting calls. Nobody knows what Ordinance 8 is in reference to. So to try and explain that to somebody and keep a very unbiased approach to it, it's very difficult. But if you don't know what it is, or if somebody you know doesn't know what it is, have them call the office and I immediately transfer that call to Mr. Cook.
that's right. All right, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Do I have it?
We'll all make that motion.
right, is there a second?
8:55.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, guys.
Kathy, just